As officials increase security in Manhattan, police apprehend Saturday night's bombing suspect. Why is there a growing African community in a small Texas town? And head-turning fashion on the Emmys' red carpet. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin tonight with breaking news in connection with the bombing Saturday night in New York City. One of 4 incidents involving explosives in the New York, New Jersey region during the last 48 hours. Now, according to multiple media reports, moments ago, authorities have taken into custody a 28-year-old man after a shootout in Linden, New Jersey, 13 miles southwest of Manhattan. The FBI says Afghanistan-born American Ahmad Khan Rahami was wanted for questioning in the blast that injured 29 people in the neighborhood of Chelsea Saturday night. Police also want to question Rahami about another bombing hours before the Manhattan explosion, about 135 kilometers south of New York City. Explosives detonated in a trash bin in Seaside Park just before a 5-kilometer foot race began. No one was hurt in the blast. One New York resident described what he heard in the Saturday bombing.
I was sitting there and all of a sudden I heard a big, huge boom. And I thought, oh gosh, maybe it's an unexpected thunderstorm. But then I looked out the window, there was no clouds in the sky. I said, wait a minute, this is crazy. And all of a sudden, that boom was so powerful that it basically turned around, it turned out all the horns on all the cars. It turned the horns and the cars on.
Well, a short time ago, U.S. President Barack Obama had this reaction to Saturday's bombing attack.
Continue to lead the global coalition in the fight to destroy ISIL, which is instigating a lot of people over the internet to carry out attacks. We are going to continue to go after them. We're going to take out their leaders. We're going to take out their infrastructure. They are continuing to lose ground in Iraq and in Syria. And later today, I'll be meeting with Prime Minister Abadi of Iraq to discuss the need to sustain that momentum. As we take away more of their territory, it exposes ISIL as the failed cause that it is. And it helps to undermine their ideology, which over time will make it harder for them to recruit and inspire people to violence.
Well, New York City is especially busy this week with hundreds of world leaders and dignitaries visiting for the UN General Assembly. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo says an extra 1,000 police and National Guard troops are being posted to patrol the New York subway system as an added precaution. Well, Saturday's blast has caused concern but not panic in New York. VOA's Zlatitsa Hoke reports.
Police and security officers swarmed the lower Manhattan area the morning after the blast. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo was there to reassure residents there is no other immediate threat.
But just to err on the side of caution, we will be deploying close to an additional 1,000 New York State Police and National Guard people to police the bus terminals, airports, and subway stations.
Cuomo said New York has the finest police agencies in the world and that the perpetrators will be found and brought to justice. The blast went off just after 8:30 p.m. Saturday and was captured on closed-circuit cameras. Eyewitnesses described it as loud and earth-shaking.
You could feel it inside of you. It gave my girlfriend a headache. And so I looked down the block and I saw the smoke coming out.
A few blocks away, a bomb squad found and safely removed a pressure cooker connected to a cell phone with wires attached to it. New York City officials did not immediately label that or the blast a terrorist attack. Analysts say it is wise not to stir panic.
Caution is prudent at this point. You don't want panic. So, a terrorist act is any act of violence against the people to instill terror in them so that they can go to the government to have them change foreign policy.
But New Yorkers on Sunday did not appear terrorized.
I don't let it get to me because that's what these perpetrators want.
Chances of it happening again are very slim, and I'm sure they're doing everything to make people feel at ease, which they are.
U.S. presidential candidates, both residents of New York, offered their thoughts.
I think it's always wiser to wait until you have information before making conclusions.
It's a terrible thing that's going on in our world and in our country, and we are going to get tough and smart and vigilant, and we're going to end it.
Also Saturday, there was an explosion near a Marine Corps charity race in New Jersey that did not injure anyone. A knife-wielding attacker injured several people at a shopping mall in Minnesota Saturday evening before being fatally shot by an off-duty police officer. Zlatica Hoke, VOA News, Washington.
Well, as we have mentioned, while leaders gathering in New York for their annual UN General Assembly meetings, this is Ban Ki-moon's final General Assembly as UN chief. His decade-long tenure ends in December. This will also be President Obama's final time as president at the international gathering. Both men will host two important meetings on an issue that is expected to dominate the agenda. For the details, VOA's Margaret Bashir joins us live from the United Nations in New York. Hi, Margaret.
Hello.
So first, we just mentioned that there's going to be an issue that will definitely dominate the agenda in New York. How about you let us know what this is?
Refugees and migration. This is the big issue this year at the General Assembly. Today, Ban Ki-moon led a meeting in the GA Hall where states adopted what they're calling the New York Declaration, and it's all about resettling refugees and migrants, respecting their rights, fighting xenophobia and discrimination against them. There's no serious commitments in it, however. There was a plan originally to put a 10% annual resettlement criteria in this declaration, and that was dropped. So some NGOs in particular are saying this is a missed opportunity, but the idea is it's pushing political will behind the issue, putting a spotlight on it. Also, we had the International Organization for Migration officially become a member of the UN system today. So it was operating as its own agency, but now it's within the UN family, and it will work in complement to the UN Refugee Agency. So now the UN has its own migration agency.
Okay. Now, we know that, for those of our viewers in Africa, they want to know, is there anything that we can expect to hear about the continent?
Well, sure. There are lots of side meetings going on Africa. This morning, the African Union Peace and Security Council was holding a side meeting on South Sudan. Later this week, there are meetings on Mali, on Central African Republic. I believe the French foreign minister is presiding over a couple of those. So Africa is still very much on the radar. There's going to be a lot of talk, I'm sure, about Boko Haram, issues like that. So it's definitely on the agenda, but I think we're going to see Syria and the refugee issue dominate.
But at the same time, we know that most of the other really substantive things happen on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly, right?
Well, there are 1,100 bilateral meetings scheduled here this week. So between two heads of state or two foreign ministers. So that's an awful lot of talking about an awful lot of topics. So everybody will, it's a great, one of the ambassadors referred to it as diplomatic speed dating. They all meet each other and see each other, raise their issues. So, yeah, definitely on the agenda here.
Well, great. We'll be on the lookout. You will be updating us on this. Thank you very much, Margaret, for your excellent
Vincent.
reporting, as always. All right. That's Margaret Bashir, VOA's correspondent at the United Nations in New York, reporting live. More now on the U.S. attack over the weekend. The man who stabbed 9 people at a mall in the state of Minnesota has been identified as a 22-year-old Somali-American named Dahir Aden. His father, Ahmed Aden, told the Star Tribune newspaper police told him Saturday night his son died at Crossroads Center Mall in St. Cloud, located about 110 kilometers northwest of Minneapolis. He said police did not mention the attack, but they seized photos and other materials from the family's apartment. Now, the local police chief says the assailant made references to Allah and even asked if one person was a Muslim. The attacker was killed by an off-duty policeman. None of the victims suffered life-threatening injuries. The FBI is considering the stabbings as a potential act of terrorism. Leaders of the city's Somali community held a news conference Sunday condemning the attack.
But I hope my neighbors, my co-workers, my friends, my community members, my elders, and everybody else will take this into heart. And please, let's spread love instead of hate. And I will say it again, ISIS does not represent us. It does not represent Islam. It does not represent the Somalis. It does not represent anybody of that faith.
Well, the leader of the Somali community in that state, Abdul Kulani, told VOA that Aden was known to the community, was working as a part-time security officer and was a smart and reliable person. Kulani said he did not know the motives or the full picture behind the attack. An Islamic-run news agency has claimed the attack was carried out by a soldier of the Islamic State. Now to East Africa, where a Somali senior military official was killed in a car bomb explosion in Mogadishu on Sunday. The militant group Al-Shabaab is claiming responsibility for the attack. A spokesman for the Mogadishu Regional Administration told VOA that General Mohammed Roble Jamali, popularly known as Gubali, and 6 of his bodyguards died when their convoy was hit by a car loaded with explosives near the entrance of Somalia's Ministry of Defense headquarters. The general was the head of the 3rd Battalion in the Somali Army and was also a leading officer in the fight against Al-Shabaab. Well, in the Democratic Republic of Congo, things turned ugly when anti-government protesters burned the body of a police officer in a suburb of the capital, Kinshasa, on Monday. Police fired shots to disperse protesters marching against a perceived move by the president to delay an election. Now, Reuters witness saw police fire into the crowd in the suburb of Limete, but was unable to immediately confirm if anyone was killed or wounded. He then saw protesters burning the officer's body. Others tore down photographs of President Joseph Kabila, chanting, "It's over for you, and we don't want you." Residents reported gunshots in several neighborhoods. Kabila's term as a leader of Democratic Republic of Congo expires in December, and he is barred by the Constitution from seeking another term. The opposition says he is plotting to extend his tenure. Well, a U.S.-Africa Business Forum is set for Wednesday in New York City, and the forum brings together African heads of state as well as CEOs of U.S. and African companies in a bid to strengthen financial and commercial ties between Africa and the United States. Africa 54's Esther Ewart has our report.
Here in Washington, D.C., a forum to discuss the importance and impact of African diaspora small and medium-sized enterprises in the development of the continent was hosted by Gallup in partnership with the Food Security, Education, Environment, Energy, Economics, Democracy, Development and Self-Help Initiative. Leila Ndiaye is Director of Policy for Africa at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which advises American companies interested in doing business in Africa.
We recently launched the U.S. Africa Business Center, and it is a platform which was created to advocate on behalf of the American businesses in Africa to give them access to the right opportunities and also connect them with the right people in Africa.
President Barack Obama's Special Assistant and Senior Director for African Affairs at the White House, Catherine Byrne, cited some of the Obama administration's economic policies for the continent, such as creating an America-like Africa Center for Disease Control, Power Africa, the Young African Leaders Initiative YALI, Feed the Future program, and the extension of the African Growth and Opportunity Act AGOA for another 10 years as a crucial part of the president's legacy. Also addressing the forum was Alicia Robinson Morgan, Deputy Director of the Africa Office at the U.S. Department of Commerce, who spoke about the role of small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs.
While the Americans are there, they're definitely showing up in increasing numbers. I do think that more can be done to stimulate the footprint in Africa.
The forum also heard from Rahama Wright, a member of President Obama's initiative on doing business in Africa Council, who is also the CEO of Share Yilin. Rahama said her company works directly with women cooperatives in northern Ghana.
We help women producers of shea butter, which is a skincare ingredient that has become very globalized. We help them connect their products to the U.S. marketplace. And so we do everything from organizing women's cooperatives, providing women access to capital, access to production tools to help them manufacture a value-added product. And then we distribute through outlets like Whole Foods markets. Now we're pivoting to also look at very large big box chains.
The Bloomberg Philanthropies and the U.S. Department of Commerce are co-hosting this year's U.S. Africa Business Forum. Rahama Wright says for real change on the continent, there are two groups of people that must be integrated in Africa's business sector.
The U.S. government understands that in order to make any sort of real change on the continent of Africa, you need to engage young people and you need to engage women.
This will be the second U.S.-Africa Business Forum to be addressed by Mr. Obama during his presidency on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Astegidu Ewart, VOA News, Washington.
Well, I want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we covered. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa54. And check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at VOA Vincent Makori. Coming up, a small Texas town attracts a growing community of African migrants. Stay with us.
From science and technology, here's what's new.
A very different type of factory is opening its doors in Britain. It's called The Foundry, and its whirring teams of robotic workers are set to industrialize the making of DNA for synthetic biology. Paul Fremont, a professor at Imperial College, is in charge of operations at The Foundry.
This is the future about how we're going to build and manufacture, really complex molecules like drugs or pharmaceuticals or even commodity chemicals.
The automated lab can run thousands of experiments at the same time, saving human researchers from wasting hours with pipettes and petri dishes. The DNA produced will be turned into little biological factories that, in turn, will be able to produce antibiotics, vaccines, and even fuels. The British government calls synthetic biology one of the 8 great technologies where that nation can excel.
I'm Jeff Selden, and I work the National Security Beat. National Security Beat is anything that affects the national security of the United States, from counterterrorism to surveillance to even relations with Russia. It's one of the most fascinating beats you can have. It's probably one of the more important beats that you can cover because it touches on so many areas of the world, so many areas of people's day-to-day lives. I'm Jeff Selden, and my beat is national security.
Welcome back. The U.S. presidential candidates are at the center of not only every news cycle, but also in the crosshairs for political cartoonists in the U.S. and around the world. Every physical characteristic and personality trait of the candidates is a potential subject for satire, from Donald Trump's yellow-orange hair to Hillary Clinton's pantsuits. Nikki Papadogiannakis and William Gallo spoke to some American cartoonists about how this is a great election year for cartoons.
Political cartoonists are having a ball this election year with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton.
It's never been this easy.
Republican candidate and billionaire Donald Trump shoots from the hip and has an outsized personality.
Of course, you have to start with the hair. It's a cadmium yellow mixed with a vermilion, and that gets you that whatever that tanning bed orange is that he's got. You can put his hair on anything, and and a 3-year-old will go, Donald Trump.
Fellow cartoonist Michael Kovna agrees.
It's easy to depict him as sort of a balloon, a 70-year-old balloon of bombast, topped by artificial-looking hair colors that don't appear in nature.
The nation's first female presidential candidate is also a target.
She has these really, what's the word, smiley cheeks. And it's sort of, when I'm playing with her, you just sort of, they're almost unnaturally smiling. When she smiles, she has these big circles on her cheeks. You can do that, and I don't have to do the bags under her eyes or her wrinkles or whatever.
But other cartoonists, especially those overseas, show no such restraint, like these from Russia.
You could, if you wanted to be mean to her, be really, really mean and make her look ugly and do all that sort of stuff. But I choose not to do that because I feel like that gets in the way of the cartoon.
Political cartoonists aren't just artists drawing public figures. Cartoonists observe the political process and find characteristics to emphasize. Hillary's cautiousness, personified by the pantsuit, and Trump's bombast, symbolized by his hair, add a satirical dimension to this year's tumultuous presidential race. For VOA News, I'm Nikki Papadogiannakis.
Well, most immigrants to the United States live in large cities, but many prefer smaller communities that offer slower pace and proximity to rural scenery. One such place is Huntsville, Texas, where a community of close to 300 Africans now thrives. As VOA's Greg Fleckers reports from Huntsville, jobs at nearby state prisons is what drew many of them to the city of just under 40,000 people.
Many of Huntsville's Africans can be found at the Rima International Church on Sundays to hear Pastor John Okperuve's fervent sermons.
Our God is a covenant-keeping God.
Pastor John says most members of the flock are Nigerians like him, but not all.
Being an African church, it serves as a meeting point to every African that comes down to Huntsville.
The church welcomes all who want to worship and celebrate. Ghanaian Peter Niyanor likes to wear traditional garb from his homeland.
Sunday has been a day that we use to remind ourselves that we still have a rich culture back home. Seeing your fellow people putting on the attire, it reminds you where you come from.
The church also lends a hand to newcomers who need support to get settled.
Everyone that comes that needs help, we try as much as possible within our limited resources, we help them out.
But the African population's growth is not from immigration alone. Many of the future leaders of Huntsville's African community are already here. Huntsville, a little over 100 kilometers north of Houston, is the location of the home and gravesite of Texas hero Sam Houston. Sam Houston State University, with its diverse mix of students, and the headquarters of the Texas Criminal Justice Department, which operates nearby prisons. Job opportunities in prisons have drawn Africans to Huntsville. Most of the Sunday congregants are prison guards, including the women.
When you're in the workplace, your co-worker is the family you have at that point, because if anything goes wrong, he or she will come to your rescue.
She says many American co-workers, including African Americans, are curious about her culture.
I've had certain co-workers who will come to me, "Oh, I want to learn Igbo. Can you teach me how to speak Igbo?" And I'll be like, "Sure, I can."
There are enough Africans here to support a small store with products from the home continent. Next door, Pastor John visits T-shirt shop owner Nathan Smith, a fellow Christian who has become a good friend.
I've met people from Africa before, but I've never witnessed an African church before, and I've been over there and experienced their service, and they're real humble and real down to earth, and they worship and they love God.
Pastor John says he's encouraged integration with the larger community in Huntsville, something residents like Kathy have welcomed.
I think it's great. I love diversity. I think it's wonderful.
Pastor John and his church have supported local charities and events, building a sense of belonging for African immigrants within the community at large. Greg Fleckers, VOA News, Huntsville, Texas.
Well, it's time now for a short break. Still to come on Africa 54, the top trends in Amy's red carpet fashion. We'll be right back.
Pour réveiller le peuple ivoirien. Pour nous aujourd'hui, pour consolider cette ville, alors que
means that people fail.
You're with Africa 54. Welcome back. I'm Haiti Adams-Fitzpatrick. Let's take a look at what is trending. The biggest stars in television lit up the red carpet at this weekend's Emmy Awards. While most of the men opted for traditional tuxedos, it was, of course, up to the women to do the heavy fashion lifting. There were two major trends we saw for dresses: ball gown big and skin-tight slinky. Apart from the gowns, every imaginable combination of shoes and jewels came down the carpet. Gowns came in gold, silver, every color under the sun, but mostly the color of the sun. It was a strong night for electric shades of yellow. Well, it's September, and we all know what that means. It's Apple season. Last Friday, the iPhone 7's launch generated trademark mob scenes and brisk sales in stores around the world. But excitement quickly turned to frustration as a supply shortage left many customers empty-handed. Buyers lined up outside stores in Australia early Friday to be sure they were the world's first customers to get their hands on the device. The iPhone 7 comes with an improved camera, no headphone jack, and a water-resistant body. There were similar scenes in Asia, Europe, and the United States, where stocks flew off the shelves as fans clamored for Apple's latest smartphone. Be safe out there, folks. Cuban millennials are bringing change to the island's media landscape. A string of private, mostly web-based outlets are chipping away at the nation's 50-year-old state media monopoly. The new independent outlets, run mainly by millennials, are often highly critical of government policy. They describe in detail the everyday hardships Cubans face, but they're not calling for an end to the Cuba's socialist project. Some are not taking the change as well, of course. The Communist Party newspaper Granma is calling for restrictions on the new competitors who have lured away some of its reporters with higher salaries and more journalistic freedom. And that, of course, is what is trending today. Vincent.
Thanks a lot, Haiti. And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. Now, for more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight, at 1800 UTC. And in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC. That's Monday through Friday. Thanks a lot for watching from all of us in Washington. Have a good night.
Welcome to the Voice of America's Newswords.
You might hear this word in a story about crime in troubled towns.
Looting. The unarmed teenager was shot here by a white police officer, sparking violent protests, looting, and vandalism. Now, this is a gathering site for a community determined to quell the unrest and find justice.
Looting. Looting means to steal. It is against the law.
Looting usually happens during riots, when police do not have control of a crowd. When people break into stores taking goods both big and small, they are looting.
So the next time you hear the word looting, your American English will be good enough to know what this news word means.